is a beautiful Friday morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Carnival Breakfast Show, coming to you from Carnival Radio. And this is Newspaper Review. I am Joseph Oyukola. Good morning and welcome once again. Thank God it's Friday and happy weekend because today is Friday and we're in weekend already. Please do ensure as you are enjoying your weekend, please stay vigilant. Ensure you are at alert at any time, at any day. If you notice something, make sure you say something. Reach out to security agencies around your area. Let them know what you have seen and what you noticed. That will help us to maintain security architecture of this country. Thank you very much. It's a beautiful morning. This morning on Newspaper Review, I came with different newspapers and each of them with interesting stories. I have the Punch with me, I have the Vanguard newspaper, and I have the Post news paper. To begin the news and details, here are the headlines. Oyo, burner abductions, tough terrain, casualty fears, store rescue mission. NDC defends party primaries, denies imposing candidates. Uniport names ex-Rivers Health Commissioner new Vice Chancellor. Attackers now occupying our territory, says displaced Nasarawa community cries out. And now to the news and details. I read from the Punch newspaper. Oyo, Borno abductions, tough terrain, casualty fears, store rescue mission. The difficult terrain fears over the safety of dozens of kidnapped pupils and teachers and demands by the abductors for the release of the detained terrorist commandants have emerged as major obstacles to ongoing efforts to rescue victims of the recent school attacks in Oyo and Borno State. This comes as United Nations resident and humanitarian coordinator in Nigeria, Mohammed Malik IV, on Thursday called for the immediate and safe release of the school children and teachers abducted in the attacks, describing the incident as a grave threat to education and child protection. Multiple presidency and security sources familiar with the situation told the newsmen that the abductors are demanding the release of high-profile terrorist leaders in exchange of the captives, a condition the federal government is unwilling to accept despite mounting public pressure for the victims' freedom. The sources who spoke on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss the matter said the deadlock largely stems from the demands for the release of suspected Ansaru commandants Muhammadu Usman and his deputy Muhammadu al-Nigeri, both of whom are currently in government custody. The presidency source further revealed that the Oyo and Borno school abductions were coordinated and deliberately timed to maximize pressure on the government and strengthen the terrorist bargaining position. The official explained that in the Oyo kidnapping, the terrorists did a coordinated attack with that of Borno because they want to use it as negotiation. Also, on August 16, 2025, the National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu announced the capture of the two terror commanders during a series of high-risk intelligence-led operations conducted by the Security Non-Intelligence Services between May and July 2025. For more details, please visit the Punch newspaper. Borno, Oyo abductions, tough terrain, casualty fears, store rescue mission. In another news, NDC Defense Party primaries denies imposing candidate. The leadership of the Nigerian Democratic Congress has dismissed an allegation that its recently concluded presidential, National Assembly, governorship, and state houses of assembly primaries were marred by irregularities and the imposition of candidates. In a statement issued in Abuja on Thursday, the NDC National Secretary Morgan Inekewu said criticism of the primaries stemmed from ignorance of the party's constitution and guidelines, as well as deliberate attempt to undermine the party's growing influence. According to him, the party should instead be commended for adopting a consensus-driven approach aimed at reducing dispute and fostering unity among members. Enezekwezu cited the Southeast as an example, noting that the party's approach in the region had been particularly effective despite claims to the contrary. Also, the NDC secretary explained that the caucus leaders were mandated to conduct consultations, build consensus, and make recommendations based on the political realities in their state. He added that aspirants who disagreed with recommendations made by stakeholders or caucus leaders were given the opportunity to test their popularity through the democratic process. This news was sourced from the Vanguard newspaper. NDC Defense Party primaries denies imposing candidate. In another interesting story from the Nation newspaper, Uniport names ex-Rivers Health Commissioner new Vice Chancellor. The University of Port Harcourt has approved the appointment of Professor Prince Will Chike as the 10th Vice Chancellor of the institution. Chike was Rivers State Commissioner for Health during the administration of Governor Nyesom Wike. He will succeed the outgoing Vice Chancellor Professor Owunari George Will, whose tenure will elapse on July 13. George Will, who is the 9th Vice Chancellor of Uniport, will preside over his last convocation ceremony scheduled for Friday, June 5 and Saturday, June 6, 2026. The university, in a statement issued in Port Harcourt on Thursday, said Chike's appointment was approved by the institution's governing council following a selection process. A statement titled University of Port Harcourt appoint Professor Prince Will R. Chike as 10th Vice Chancellor was signed by the Public Relations Officer of Uniport, Dr. Sam Mpenu. Also, Professor Prince Will Chike is expected to formally assume office as the 10th Vice Chancellor of the University of Port Harcourt on 13 July 2026. This news was brought to you from the Nation newspaper. Uniport names ex-Rivers Health Commissioner new Vice Chancellor. On to the last news on Newspaper Review this morning. Attackers now occupying our territory. Displaced Nasarawa community cries out. What began as a brutal terrorist attack on communities in Odeni Gida ward of Udege Development Area, Nasarawa local government area of Nasarawa State, has now evolved into something even more disturbing: the apparent occupation of deserted communities by the very attackers accused of forcing residents out. Months after coordinated attacks left more than 80 people dead across several communities, survivors say the pain has not ended. Homes were burnt, food stores looted, farms abandoned, and properties worth hundreds of millions destroyed. Yet, beyond the bloodshed and displacement, many residents now fear there may be a deliberate effort to redefine what happened and bury the truth beneath the softer language of communal crash. From the onset of the violence, several resident and community voices rejected attempts to describe the attacks as ordinary communal unrest. They insisted that what happened was a coordinated armed invasion carried out by alleged heavily armed Fulani attackers who stormed multiple communities simultaneously. During a recent, for many survivors, the concern was not only about semantics, but about what the classification could eventually mean: accountability, justice, compensation, and even ownership of ancestral lands. During a recent visit to affected areas by President Bola Tinubu's Special Assistant on Community Engagement, Dr. Abiodun Hesient, another painful reality reportedly emerged. From what it is, play facade, the Nation newspaper. Attackers now occupying our territory. Displaced Nasarawa community cries out. To bring newspaper review to a close this morning, here is the recap of headlines. Oyo Bana abductions. Tough terrains, casualty phase, store rescue mission. NDC Defense Party primaries deny imposing candidates. Uniport names ex-Rivers Health Commissioner in Vice Chancellor. Attackers now occupying our territory. Nasarawa displaced community cries out. And with that, we've come to the end of newspaper review. Thank you very much for listening. You can download Carnival from Google Play Store and have iOS. You can also check out our website at www.carnivalmedia.ng. My name remains Joseph Oyukola. Good morning, and please do well to enjoy the rest of your day. Happy Friday.